At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized, so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You're listening to Pilgrims Grey Chronicles, top 3 stories of the week. The world's gone strange, but we love a good peek. From shadows deep to the global stage, we bring the truth from age to age. With harmony bold and a skeptical tone, we dig up the news they don't want known. So stoke the fire and have a seat. This week's top 3 can't be beat. Pilgrims Grey Chronicles.
Well, welcome back once again, friends, fellow pilgrims. Pilgrims Grey Chronicles. Robert Clark, your host, and you feel it, don't you? A shifting in the wind, a silence behind the noise, something ancient and heavy pressing through the cracks of the modern world. The kings of yesterday are being removed from the board, gatekeepers, icons, mouthpieces of their age. We walk among headlines that pretend to report news, while the real stories move in shadows. The old are passing, and not just in years, but in legacy, in meaning, in role. In this past week or so, 3 giants fell. John MacArthur Jr., the unflinching preacher who stood like a stone tower against the waves of compromise, has left his pulpit to join the ranks of others in heaven. I have to say, he was one of my very first introductions into in-depth study of Scripture. A friend of mine from work, when I very first started my job, some 30 plus years ago, he was one of the first people I was introduced to outside of just reading the Bible to study Scripture. Was John MacArthur's, I believe the book I was given was Saved Without a Doubt. And it was instrumental in me having an initial well-balanced walk with God because I just knew I had a relationship with God. I've always felt it anyway, but it's always good to be mentored by, even if it's just a book, some very well-done scriptural study on it. It always builds confidence in that department. And it really, if you've never read that book by John MacArthur, I highly recommend it. And so, later as I grew as a Christian, there were things that I disagreed with John MacArthur on. Like, I do believe humans have free will. And maybe I'll do a show on that one day where I discuss Molinism and God's middle knowledge. Because it's a very important, incredibly important topic, because it deals with the nature of and the origin of sin and why it's even allowed by a loving God to happen in this world, right? So we'll definitely go over that at some point. And of course we had Ozzy Osbourne, also instrumental in my life, in that I'll never forget the first time I was in junior high and I was in an arcade skipping school. We weren't supposed to leave the campus, but I took my lunch money and I would go to this arcade that was like, this is the 80s, of course. And so I would walk like a block away to this arcade that was right by the school. And I'd go in there and I would play either Stargate or Defender, which are both very similar games. I always thought Stargate was cooler and it had cooler sounds. But I was sitting in there with a couple of friends playing games, and the next thing you know, this crazy song comes out. I literally thought it was some stupid car commercial for stereos, because, back then, that was a big deal to have a cool, loud car stereo. But it was, this guy saying all aboard, and like this rattling sound panning all around the arcade, and then the guitar hit. And I'd never heard anything so heavy in my life. Not that I'd never heard rock, but I mean, the guitars for Crazy Train, I mean, it still keeps up with guitar stuff today. The thickness and the heaviness and the quadruple tracked rhythm sections, or triple tracked, And so I immediately had to find out, being the way I am, I had to learn how to play it. I had to figure out how he was playing this and all this other stuff. And that led me down the road of becoming a musician and playing stuff from my teen years. And I was inspired by his guitarist, Randy Rhoads, to practice all the time, because I read about how he would go from place to place to place while they were on tour, and always look up a teacher, always wanting to learn more, always wanting to figure other things out. And so I had the same attitude and learned a lot. And then, of course, Hulk Hogan, the symbol of American muscle, media bravado, stepped out of the ring for the final time. Thank goodness he received Christ as a savior at some point in his life. And I think that's fantastic. I was never into pro wrestling. I never saw the appeal of it. I just saw it as a physical male soap opera. But, the people who enjoy it. Good for them. I'm glad they found, some sort of temporary escape from the craziness of the world, right? That's kind of what entertainment is. It takes you away for a while from the horrible activities of the planet that can go on. Not that it's all horrible, but you get my point. Sometimes the world is overwhelming to us, and we need a good Netflix show or a binge. We shouldn't get completely lost in entertainment. I think that's unhealthy too, but there should be balance, right? So now, whether you cheered for them or questioned their impact, one thing is certain: they each shaped the world we were handed, and they each leave behind questions that remain unanswered. But we're not here tonight to just eulogize. No. We're here because the world isn't done yet. And as the towers fall and old names fade, something else rises to take their place. Stranger stories, unexplainable events, data, points buried under jokes and scientific jargon, the camouflage of the new priesthood. And so tonight, from the watchtower of the Pilgrims Grey Chronicles, we light the lanterns and chart the path across the fog. Because the world laughs at flat Earth, scoffs at portals, and blindly trusts the official narrative. And we ask, well, who benefits from the world's blindness? Well, this is Friday night, as you know, and the dispatches from the writers are at the inn, laying on the table, and here's your top 3 stories of the week. So story 1, and by the way, I could read the worldly top 3 stories, and sometimes I do that if I feel it's important enough. But sometimes I think there's things going on behind the scenes that are very important that get missed because of what the mainstream narrative wants you to be talking about, for whatever their reasons are, right? I mean, ultimately, we know they want a new order for the ages. It's written all over your currency. Novus Ordo Seclorum. It's what they want. And so they use TV as propaganda, or, I mean, you just look at the words. You get visions. You are programmed through channeling to believe what they're selling in any given moment. It's why my wife and I seldom watch TV. And when we do it just for entertainment purposes. And we're always catching their crap, like they always love to show the Washington Monument and the dome, and and the number 33, and certain dates. You know what I mean. If you're paying attention, you know what I mean. So, it's Friday night, fellow wanderers, and while the world argues about Trump memes and TikTok bans, something strange is happening far beneath our feet, not under Manhattan, not in Area 51, but deep below the Indian Ocean, where it seems even gravity has given up trying to make sense of this place. That's right. According to a brand new peer-reviewed study making its rounds this week, scientists have confirmed what's being called the world's largest gravity anomaly, a vast basin-shaped low-density zone, quote-unquote, where gravity is significantly weaker than it's supposed to be. If you even believe in gravity, because I don't know that I do. The jury's still out for me. I think density and buoyancy explains a lot, and I explained that in a recent episode through listener mails. I always say viewer. Well, I guess sort of it's viewers, right? We are going to be doing the Rumble channel, probably uploading Monday videos for the most part, until I have more time, right? So how weak is this? How weak is this anomaly? It's so weak that the ocean water above this anomaly literally dips down, creating a giant shallow dent in the sea. Bizarre, right? So think of it like Earth's belly button, but with less lint and more existential dread, right? So now they'll tell you this is because of subducted plates or ancient magma plumes, right? Or some invisible 1 million year old rock ghost they just made up. But here's what they're not asking. If the Earth's gravity is supposed to hold trillions of tons of water evenly across a spinning globe, then why, oh why, is there a gaping dent 2,000 miles wide under the Indian Ocean? Shouldn't that water redistribute? Shouldn't gravity, like a good butler, keep the ocean level no matter what? I mean, isn't that what we're told? But no. Nope. No, instead, we have a perfectly circular sag, like someone unplugged the bathtub and forgot to mention it. And while the scientists debate what tectonic fable fits best, we're over here in the inn asking, well, what if this isn't about gravity at all? Right? I don't think it is. What if it's evidence of a rupture or a tear in the foundations, like a scar from an ancient war, or worse, a sealed gate beginning to open? And some say this region once housed the mythical sunken continent of Lemuria, and others point to it as a former battlefield between the old gods and the Most High. And let's not forget, many ancient texts speak of the fountains of the deep, broken up once before, and maybe, just maybe, preparing to open again. We know God will not destroy the world with a flood, but that does not mean that we couldn't have some nasty tsunamis, right? But anyway, we'll leave that for another night, perhaps when the tide drops a little lower and reveals what's really been buried all the time. And so while CNN runs another 48-hour loop on Hunter's laptop, or, we should just take a moment to consider this. The Earth just burped, and gravity forgot to answer the call, right? And so the mystery deepens quite literally beneath the Indian Ocean, where gravity itself seems to have packed up and drifted off like a ship lost in the fog. A hollow in the earth, a missing piece of the puzzle, or perhaps a spiritual sinkhole where the laws of physics go to die. But if the oceans are hiding secrets under their depths, then what of the ice? Right? Because while the Indian Ocean is losing weight, something on the alleged bottom of the world is starting to speak. That's right. We're headed for warm equatorial waters to the frozen silence of Antarctica, a place no one owns, yet everyone guards. A place of treaties, taboos, and towers buried in snow. And just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder, it starts transmitting. So let's dive into story 2, Voices from the Ice. So, buckle up. We're heading south, and I don't mean South America. I mean south of the South. The South that is in all directions. The Wall. Antarctica. To a place where the sun takes a 6-month vacation and nothing grows but silence and ice. So welcome to Antarctica, the Earth's final untouched continent, or so they say. You see, for years now, an experiment known as ANITA, and that stands for Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, has been quietly listening. It's a high-altitude balloon with an ear to the ground, except the ground, in this case, is 2 miles of ancient ice. So, ANITA was built to detect some cosmic neutrinos, ghost particles from space. But in 2016 and again in 2018, she heard something else. Upward radio pulses from beneath the ice. Not static, not solar noise, a signal rising. These radio bursts came from inside the Earth, moving against the expected flow of energy. Nothing in known physics explains them. NASA tried to shrug it off. Then the physicists went silent. The papers quietly withdrew from front pages like someone unplugged the microphone mid-testimony. Right? Turn off the mic. You're no longer allowed to speak. So cutting through the fluff, here's the unsettling part. These pulses don't come from above. They definitely come from below the crust. They travel upwards like a cry escaping from something buried. At least that's the way it seems. And they repeat year after year after year. And some say it's exotic particles. Others say it's a software glitch. But those paying attention, including you, I'm sure, dear listener, know better. At least in my opinion, we do. And this isn't malfunction. This is communication. And what if ANITA didn't pick up cosmic noise, but a knocking from the other side of the veil, from beneath the seals of the deep? The Book of Enoch and other ancient sources speak of a place of confinement beneath the earth where rebel spirits await their release. Now, could it be that those prison doors are rattling in maybe even more than one place? Or maybe, and stay with me here, maybe the Grigori never left. Maybe they're just frozen in place, buried beneath Antarctic ice, broadcasting from beneath the watchtower. And still, no one asks why every world power has a base down there, or why the Pope, the Patriarch of Russia, and high-level U.S. officials all made sudden visits to Antarctica in just these past few years. Let me ask you this. What's in Antarctica that popes and generals even give a crap about? Why do they care? Why is it the only continent covered on most maps with digital smudges and blurred sections, like bad? And what if this talking ice, these radio ghosts, aren't the beginning of something new, but the echo of something ancient, a voice saying, "We are still here." So let's review. Story 1 took us to the depths of the Indian Ocean, where gravity itself seems to be on vacation, if it even exists. Story 2 flew us over the frigid silence of Antarctica, where cosmic Morse code seems to be tapping out messages from beneath the ice. And just when you thought we'd leave it at the edge of the Earth's forgotten places, there's a pivot. Not to the sea, not to the sky, but to the stones. Because sometimes the biggest revelations do not echo from deep space or come beeping through glaciers. Sometimes they whisper from dusty hills that haven't spoken in 3,000 years. From under a modest mound in ancient Samaria, something has stirred, and it just might be the most direct warning we've seen yet. Let's talk a moment about the mountain of curses, Mount Ebal. So, now we've gone from the watery void under the Indian Ocean to whispering ice sheets over Antarctica. But our third tale tonight, this one's carved in stone, literally. Mount Ebal, one of 2 peaks that once framed the ancient Valley of Decision in Deuteronomy. Gerizim to the south, where blessings were shouted. And Ebal to the north, where curses were proclaimed, echoing across the land for all 12 tribes to hear. It was, in a way, the original spiritual amplifier, a sacred loudspeaker for covenantal consequence. And wouldn't you know it, archaeologists just confirmed something remarkable up there. A tiny lead tablet, smaller than a postage stamp, unearthed in the rubble of an overlooked altar site, Joshua's altar. And scratched into that thin sheet of metal in an early Proto-Hebrew script, older than most academics dare admit exists, are curses. Short, sharp, and to the point. Cursed, cursed, cursed. No fancy metaphors, no interpretive gymnastics, just a divine line drawn in the dirt. Follow the Lord or else. Now, this might just be an ancient curiosity to some, but if you're tracking the patterns, the rise of lawlessness, the return of the old gods, the trembling of the earth and skies, it kind of feels more like a reminder, a warning, resurfacing in our time from the mountain where the terms were first laid out. Mount Ebal isn't just history, it's prophecy written backward, and that little tablet, that's not just archaeology. It's a sealed indictment reappearing like Exhibit A at the final trial, and maybe the stones really are crying out. And so there you have it, wanderers. From the hollowed gravity fields of the Indian Ocean to the eerie static from beneath the southernmost ice to an ancient hill where stones still remember the terms of a forgotten covenant, we've traveled far. Maybe not in the world of politics. Maybe if I feel like it, because I'm just so tired of politics. But maybe we'll get back into that next Friday. It'll probably be unavoidable by then. So, the road doesn't end here, of course. It goes ever on, as we know, right? And so do we. So whether it's buried truths, echoing signals, or ancient stones crying out, you can count on us to dig, discern, and deliver it straight to your lantern-lit table here with us enjoying a brew, right? And thank you all for walking the strange path with us. If you've been stirred or challenged or downright rattled, well, good. That means you're still awake. And we would appreciate it if you would send your thoughts, theories, your scrolls that you find to pilgrimsgrey@gmail.com. That's pilgrimsgrey@gmail.com. And then you can catch full episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. All you got to do is just put in the search Pilgrims Grey Chronicles. It will definitely pop up. I've asked several people. And then watch and engage with us on our new Rumble station, right? I'll make sure to put it all in the description. And for daily breadcrumbs, you can, of course, follow our journey on X or Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe, share the road with a fellow traveler, and tap that bell. The more you tap it or hit like, the farther out our reach goes. So ring in with the likes. And it's not that I'm saying do it just for the algorithmic validation, but it's also so you don't miss the next firelight gathering so we can all hang, right? So until next time, stay watchful, stay grounded, and keep walking, because we all know the hour's late, but we were born for this part of the story, folks. That's why you're here. You have purpose. And don't forget, Pilgrims Grey Chronicles, Friday nights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and Monday and Wednesday also. Sorry that sometimes it takes longer than 9 p.m. Central Standard Time for these things to upload, but that is the approximate time that it comes out. I know many listen the next day or later that night or in the morning. So, but you can always count on an episode sometime around then. And until Monday night, you guys have a great weekend and Godspeed to all of you.